Thinking Moms Revolution, and the author of the Thinking Moms Revolution, Autism Beyond the Spectrum. Thank you so much, Lisa, for being here. First of all, I wanted to get your personal story. You come at this from a very personal place, and I have to say, it resonates with me. I have autism in my own family. What exactly happened to your son, you feel, after receiving a vaccine?
Right, well, our experience isn't typical in that a lot of people say that autism in their families evolved because they noticed behavior. In our condition, it was really, that we noticed physical illnesses. Right after his 12-month vaccination, he became incredibly ill, had a 104-degree temperature. He developed all-over-body eczema. He developed a bowel condition that unfortunately led to over 20 diarrhea-filled diapers a day. So our journey began with physical illness and ultimately manifested in behavioral issues.
We talked to a couple of doctors about this, and we asked one, Dr. Peter Hotez, the Dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine, about your story. This is what he told us. He said, by the time a baby is born, autism has happened. That is the major reason why we wouldn't expect a vaccine to cause changes in the brain. Vaccines can cause fever or allergic reaction, but it's been shown in multiple studies that there is no link between the use of those vaccines and autism. Large epidemiological studies have been conducted by the CDC and others. Do you concede that a majority of the scientific evidence does suggest there's no link?
I would say that at this juncture, it's imperative that we all really pay very close attention to the CDC whistleblower story. There's a lot going on there. There's over hundreds of thousands of pages of documentation that are telling us as parents that we are not being told the truth. I can tell you in my personal experience in watching my son fall into severe chronic autoinflammatory neurological illness that we have problems that we need to address. No one is saying at this juncture in my faction that infectious disease is not real. We have Ebola on our doorstep. We know that this is a real threat. However, chronic autoimmune and neurological illness as a result of infectious disease prevention theory is also very real. So
that is not what the science seems to indicate. And I do want to push back on that claim about the CDC whistleblower, because that individual came out and said his comments were taken out of context by Andrew Wakefield. He said he would never want to imply anything but support for vaccines. So what do you say to that?
I would too if I was still working at the CDC. I would too if I was still working at the CDC.
So you think there's a cover-up here?
I wouldn't say a cover-up. I think massive ineptitude, absolutely. We're often told as parents that we're very passionate about the science. We're passionate about the medicine. We're passionate about what is happening to the children of this country. Over 50% of parents at this juncture are questioning vaccines, and with very good reason. There's one of me in every neighborhood. I just got a call from a friend who is an educator, and of 18 children, 6 have neurological anomalies that are just more common these days.
But it's, again, important to say to the audience, and I'm so much keeping my thoughts with your family and those of the families of all of the individuals who have children suffering from conditions and who feel it may be linked to this. But the science does say over and over again there is no link. And this idea that there was a CDC whistleblower has been debunked. But I want to also ask you about the consequences of this. As you say, there are many people like yourself in communities with these concerns. And one of the consequences of that is, for instance, the Hollywood Reporter looked at a bunch of wealthy schools in LA, found they had lower vaccination rates than South Sudan. And in many of those schools, what we're seeing is a resurgence of whooping cough. Around the country, we're seeing a resurgence of measles. My question to you is this.
Right.
Why put other children at risk who depend on your kids' immunity?
Right. Well, I think that's an excellent question. I think what we should be asking ourselves is, what is it that these affluent women who are married or are scientists or doctors themselves, what is it that they know that they are not sharing with everyone else? It's time to really look at both sides of this issue. Chronic illness as the result of vaccines is very real. It's happening to children all over this country and all over this world. So now is the time to act on it. Now is the time for parents to take the accurate science to their doctors. Dr. Thompson, actually, in my experience of him, has not stepped off from what he has said. He is simply at a place where he's waiting for indemnity so that he can speak more.
But again, also the study at issue is something that the original authors went back and looked at again, and they say they don't stand by those findings.
The original authors?
That's right.
Meaning Dr. Hooker?
And they went back and reanalyzed the data, and as of this week, what we know is that study has been debunked. It's even been removed from the public domain.
I would strongly suggest having Dr. Hooker on your show then and having him speak to you specifically. It has not been debunked. Statistics are subject to the people who are interpreting them. And when the people interpreting them have a great deal to lose, they are going to do everything in their power to make sure that the truth does not come out. Our children have been harmed. They are repeatedly being harmed. Our pediatricians are not educated and are not aware of what's happening from an autoimmune perspective, what's happening to the mitochondria of these children.
And Lisa goes, I do have so much sensitivity for your situation. As I said, I've dealt with some of these conditions in my own family, but the fact is, the science says we are not losing people to vaccines, but we are hurting people when people don't vaccinate. I appreciate your taking the time.
That's absolutely inaccurate. Absolutely inaccurate.
Again, I wish we had more time, and thank you so much, Lisa Gose. I appreciate it.
Parents do the work.
If you're passionate about this debate, there is something you can do. For this week's call to action, just help people get educated, get the facts out there. You see what this conversation is like right now. Make sure everyone has an informed ability to make a decision. Go to our website. It's msnbc.com/Ronan-Farrow-Daily. Click on the call to action. You can get health.com's facts and share them on Twitter and Facebook. That is under the hashtag vaccine debate. Hundreds of you are weighing in, and forcefully. Here's what Natalie said. As the mother of an ASD child, thank you for helping to expose the myth. Thanks to all of you. Keep the conversation going. We'll be right back.